Good afternoon. I'm Mike Yes with Ground Floor Gaming Collective. Today we're going to talk about something that we all know and love, and that would be zombie games. First, we're going to look at a very specific genre of said zombie game genre. You have a lot of different kinds of zombie games out there. I mean, you got some hack and slashes like Zombie Driver. You've got stuff like Plants vs. Zombie, cartoony or strategic. But what we're going to focus on today is the survival open world aspect of the zombie games that we have out right now. And the first game I really want to take a look at is DayZ. DayZ has been out for quite a long time. It developed a pretty quick fan base and has a very niche market. And it totally makes sense that after a year and a half of being an alpha and a build from another game, that it's still in alpha status. Wait, no, it doesn't. But aside from that, DayZ gives a very survival scrounge feel to it. It's first person or third person, depending on how you play. And there's very real threat of other players, which I like to think would be something you'd have to worry about in the actual zombie apocalypse. But let's look at some virtues of DayZ and some of the things that detract from its playability. Virtues is you have really no objective. You've got an open world, which is kind of like Russia, I suppose. And the way that you interact with the environment and the environment interacts with you is very unique in the fact that you can get cold, you can get hungry, you can get tired, you have to look for shelter, look for clothing, and that's something you don't see a lot in other zombie games. Most of them require you to build weapons using things that are somewhere around the map in the first place. However, on the flip side with DayZ, it's not exceptionally user-friendly. It's kind of a trial by error. I think most people talk about starting DayZ. I know I started DayZ and basically died about 5 times before I kind of figured out what's going on. Something else very unique about DayZ is once you die, you're dead. That's it. You have to start over with a whole different character, rocking some Nike pumps, a t-shirt, and some jeans. Some things that sort of detract from the DayZ world are the fact that, number one, there's a lot more weaponry than there is food, although food is pretty necessary. Additionally, the graphics aren't amazing for what you would consider an open world zombie game to be. The maps are gigantic and only allow at most 50 players per server. And the zombie hitboxes are still very rough. Now, in previous patches, you used to be able to wail on a zombie with a sledgehammer, a broom, all kinds of different items around the map. And if you had a good item like a fire axe, it'd only take 1 or 2 chops. But now in the .55 build, they're tenacious. Very, very, very tenacious. This kind of tenacious. Which is kind of counterintuitive to the whole zombie ideal. Because zombies historically have been slow-moving and hungry for brains. These have been all fast-moving, who will continue to chase you, despite the fact that you just spawned and have literally no weapons and can't stop to pick anything up, for about a mile, mile and a half. And by then, you're pretty hungry and getting close to death. So, although DayZ has some very unique concepts to it and does have a pretty intense cult following, I'm going to suggest that we move on to the next game and continue to develop from there. Next, we're going to talk about No More Room in Hell. Now, No More Room in Hell has some very interesting things going for it. Number one, it's free. That's right. Free. Number two, it is objective-based and has a very first-person shooter aspect to it, but requires players to work together, scrounge for goods, craft goods on the go in order to reach the objective. One of the other things that's really cool about this game, and something that I find very entertaining, is if you die and get eaten by a zombie, then you become a zombie and actually get to watch yourself on the camera, chase down the people that you were just helping, and obliterate them. And for being a free game, the graphics are fairly decent, the playability is really good, and although it doesn't have an open world survival feel to it, very rarely will you jump in for a 30-minute to an hour-long session and walk away disappointed. Even if you die, it's still a whole lot of fun. And next we're going to move on and talk about a game that's been gathering quite a bit of hype over the past 3 months. And that's H1Z1. H1Z1 is very similar to DayZ in the concept that it's an open world game. You spawn with nothing. You have to forge your way through the game and hopefully survive. But unlike DayZ, H1Z1 comes with a $19.99 price tag, which is not bad considering how massive the game is. You have a lot more options with crafting, and the map to player ratio is a lot better, leading to a much more exciting gameplay. Some of the other things about the game that run very smooth is hitboxes on both player characters and the zombies rolling around are very, very, very accurate. If you build a small bow out of your underwear band and some sticks, if you hit a zombie in the head with it, it's going to go down, which is, again, pretty accurate. There are also objectives in the game, like supply drops that come from other aircraft that players will run to in order to gather these supplies. And that forces player characters into interacting in either a warm and fuzzy, let's help each other out sort of way, or more likely than not, they're going to slaughter each other in hopes of walking away with the most stuff. You can also build shelters, traps to your shelters, and other things to bamboozle your fellow player characters and hopefully kill them before they steal all your crap. So all in all, for a $19.99 price tag, H1Z1 is pretty amazing of a game, and something that I have hours and hours and hours and hours of fun with. But wait, there's more. We still got 3 more zombie games that we're going to talk about. The next zombie game that we're going to dive into is Dying Light. Dying Light kind of exploded onto the console scene with a little bit of disappointment. But here we are several months later, and most places are giving it an 8.9 or 9.5 out of 10, somewhere in that general area. So let's look at why. Well, number one, the graphics on Dying Light are awesome. And part of the reason for that is it is a designed for console game. It's also got a very unique parkour element, which was one of the initial things that led to a lack of popularity when the game first released. Because, again, it's not exceptionally user-friendly starting out, but once you figure it out, it's a lot of fun. You also have a day-to-day, hour-by-hour, objective-based standard campaign, which in no way, shape, or form are you limited to. Able to duck, dip, dodge, dive, duck, or whatever throughout the massive city that you're in. Also putting in an element of danger and fear when night comes and the mutants come for you. You also get to, unlike other zombie games, increase skills and stats as you go. So you can choose whether or not you're going to be a squirrely little ninja running up and down walls, or a gun-toting bruiser kicking indoors. But to be honest, these are things that we absolutely expect from a game with a $59.99 price tag. Also, it has a multiplayer mode, which up to this point seems like a watered-down attempt at creating a game that everyone already knows and loves, with kind of a Left 4 Dead style feeling. And although adding in certain aspects of the game like mutants or zombies that get really mad and run really fast, it can sometimes get annoying taking away from the standard genre feel of slow shambling zombies that are trying to eat your brains. And next up on the chopping block, we're going to continue with the action adventure and talk about another game that has gained and is now regaining popularity amongst gamers. The name of that game would be State of Decay. Some very key points about State of Decay is instead of being a first-person shooter, it's a third-person shooter action-adventure. It's got an open-world feel to it with objectives, but at the same time isn't restrictive like games we've seen in the past. Dead Rising. Oops, did I do that? But for being an action-adventure game, you have a lot of standard ability for looting, for building shelter, upgrading shelter, and the ability to move freely throughout the map to accomplish objectives and keep things safe for you and your imaginary friend. One thing that does kind of suck about it is the fact that it is single player at this point and no multiplayer mode exists. Part of the reason why a lot of people play games is to play with their friends. But one danger that we run into with the re-release of State of Decay is it started as an Xbox 360 game, which released almost 3 years ago. Now here we are, a re-release on consoles, and not a whole lot has changed. Here and there you have some minor items, but nothing extravagant that really makes you go, dang, they certainly changed this game. And if you originally played State of Decay, you now have a additional $20 price tag to play it again with some very minor changes. So that being said, we here at Ground Floor Gaming Collective think, nay, analyzed, that the best bang for your buck you're going to get out of a zombie game at this point is H1Z1. Unless you like free, and then it's no more room left in hell. But as a conglomerate for a zombie game with survivability, lootability, crafting, multiplayer, you would not be disappointed if you walked away with H1Z1. We give it a 9 out of 10 Tidy Puppies. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching our first video review. And in the next installment, we're going to talk about some amazing indie games that are coming out, dominating the Steam scene, and definitely deserve your support. This is Mikey S. with Ground Floor Gaming Collective, signing off.